Hello and welcome to Design Boss Dialogue, the podcast where bold and ambitious women in interior design come for real conversations to transform and take their businesses to new heights. I am your host, Lisa Marie Elkhadraoui, interior designer and business mentor, here to share my experiences and insights into running an interior design business, as well as empowering you to build the confident, profitable design business you've been dreaming of and truly deserve. In this space, we blend creativity with strategy to help you craft your success and thrive in the world of design. Every episode is packed with unfiltered, no BS conversations, daily inspiration, and actionable business tips to turn your passion into a thriving, cash-rich business. Together, we're redefining what it means to succeed in the interior design industry, one intentional, game-changing decision at a time. So get ready to step up, elevate, and create the design empire you've always envisioned. Welcome back. It is day 22 and we have another inspiring episode of the Design Boss Dialogue Advent Calendar podcast. This is your go-to source for all things interior design and business. I'm your host, Lisa Marie Elkhadraoui, and over the festive period, we will be unwrapping gifts of wisdom, practical tips, and insider secrets to help you grow and thrive in the world of interior design. And today I am joined by not only a fellow interior designer, but a wonderful coach and mentor in the design industry, Amy Newton. Amy is the founder of Amy Newton Interiors, covering Manchester and Cheshire, and specialises in transforming homes through a collaborative approach, ensuring every space reflects the client's unique vision and lifestyle. Not only does Amy transform houses, but shares the same passion I do and is a strong believer of collaboration, not competition. And empowering other women and supporting other business owners is the way forward in our industry. Today's gorgeous conversation is delving deep into how Amy joined the world of interior design, her background, and why empowerment is the way forward. And collaboration in the industry is much more powerful than competition. Welcome, Amy, to today's podcast. I'm so excited to have you on.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Today is going to be a really lovely and powerful conversation. And we're going to talk about not only your journey into the interior design world, but also your amazing mentoring and coaching company, because you also empower women and support them, but also looking at your journey and your transferable skills and your strengths and how you utilize that in what you're doing now. We're going to be talking about the power of support, collaboration, not competition. And I want to start off today's conversation about really delving into how you came into the world of interior design.
Yeah, so a lot of interior designers now, I haven't always been an interior designer. I did have a previous life for over 20 years working in the probation service. So I worked with some of the most challenging, underprivileged people that belong in our society. And I loved that work. I really enjoyed it. But alongside that, I always had a passion for interior design. I had two parents who worked in the property industry, one as a sales director for new homes and one who worked as a conveyancing solicitor. So property was sort of always around. I'd regularly visit show homes with my mum when I was a little girl, loved looking around all the newly designed rooms, playing with everything, fabulous. Touching things that I probably shouldn't have been touching at that point, and I'd have been horrified if it was my child. Yeah. Absolutely. But I loved doing that. I loved sort of having the interior design sort of as an interest on the side. Loved doing my own homes. And I did think about making the transition in terms of career into interior design roughly about 13 years ago when I just had my second child. But at that point, it just didn't feel right at that time for one reason or another. And then I hit 40 and thought to myself, I'm sick of listening to myself. I'm sick of thinking, well, what if? And I just thought it's now or never. And so thankfully I had a really supportive husband who said, just go for it. And that's what I did almost 6 years ago. And I have never looked back since.
Oh, I love that. And alongside your interior design company, you also have another amazing business model supporting and empowering women, mentoring and coaching them. And I'm so excited and honoured to have another interior design mentor and coach on the podcast, because there is so much in our industry about, oh, no, you can't talk to that person, you can't do this, cloak and dagger this. But like you and I, it's collaboration over competition. And I would love to hear it from your perspective. What made you go into also the world of coaching and mentoring interior designers?
I've always, as part of my previous career, I've always mentored people. And I think that's the part that I enjoyed most about that previous career, and the bit that I felt was missing when I moved into interior design. But that, coupled with, at the outset of my interior design career, reaching out to other interior designers to sort of say, can you share your experience with me? Are there particular courses that you suggest that I could do? Could we have a chat over a coffee? And just being met with complete silence and thinking, oh, okay, this is a really closed industry. People obviously aren't happy to share their experiences. And so, off I went and studied, and I did my own thing. I launched the business. But I quickly realised that I needed the level of support that other women were also needing from speaking to other interior designers. Everybody seemed to be of the view, it's a bit of a closed industry. We don't talk about pricing. We don't talk about, our processes, about client projects. And I just thought I wanted to change that, really. And I wanted to help and support other women. And so initially I set up an event called Treads and Rises, where I would invite other women, other interior designers, sort of meet together just for a chat, really, chat over a coffee, maybe a bit of education around an area of interior design. And people loved it. And that's when I started to meet the kind of people that were similar to me and that wanted to get involved. And then naturally from that came people contacting me and sort of asking me, can you give me advice on this? Can you give me advice on that? And don't get me wrong, it wasn't like I was the oracle, but I was the one that was open to having these conversations. And that's where I thought, actually, I can help and support and empower these women to go through the same journey that I have. And that's when the mentoring and coaching started.
I love that, because there's so much power in being able to support someone else with the information that you have. And I think from my perspective, being in the industry for the last 15 years and having the studio for the last day, I wanted to support so many women with startup companies or scaling big companies to be like, this is how you can do it. Let me show you. Let me give you the information. Let me look at your business model. Let me see how the information transcends into your business model. And it's not about closing off, because I was like you. When I started in the industry, I would reach out to so many companies that actually I really aspired to, that I thought, oh God, I love their interior design company. Look at that. Look at how they do that. That's really beautiful. And I would send emails, I'd lift the phone up, and it would just be met with silence. No, we're not interested. We don't want to talk to you. And I would kind of come back home in the evenings and talk to my husband and be like, oh yeah, I didn't get very far with this today, and they wouldn't talk to me. And I started to get exposed to how closed and shut off the industry could be, until, like you, I went out and sought my own information. And then women that naturally came to the table, that wanted to chat, that wanted to be inclusive, part of these empowering, wonderful conversations. And it took me a little bit longer, actually. It's only this year that I opened the company up after my second child that I thought, do you know what? I want to make a difference in every woman's life. Mm-hmm. And I love that you have those values as well. And you can transfer your skills over.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of imposter syndrome that sometimes comes in, particularly in my experience speaking to other women. Particularly, I'm not generalising about men, but they don't seem to have the same level of imposter syndrome as women do.
No, that's correct, yeah.
Yes. And I think initially you start that, well, who am I to be able to mentor these women? Who am I to think that I can do this? But actually, sort of that self-talk of actually what you need to do in order to mentor somebody is to be further ahead than they are.
Yeah.
So I specifically focus on sort of new and aspiring interior designers. I'm 6 years into the industry. So that's where I am. You're further ahead in terms of experience. So you're sort of coaching, from the beginning up to women who really want to scale their businesses. Yeah. So I think it's, realizing you don't have to know it all, but if you do know something and you're willing to share it, then that's really powerful and people respond to that. And I think if you naturally have those skills of wanting to see other people succeed, people are drawn to you.
Yeah. They're drawn to that energetic energy that you have and that you emanate, because if you're going to be putting that out there and giving value and talking so positively about that, you're naturally going to attract women that are like, actually, yeah, I'd love to do that. I'd love to share that. I'd love to see how that happens. I'd love to grow my company like that. And it is very true. We all suffer from all levels of imposter syndrome. I know with my interior design company, and certainly with certain sections of the mentoring and coaching company over the last 9 months, I have had moments of actually, when I see a bigger coach in the industry that's obviously maybe doing it a lot longer, I'm like, oh God, actually, should I? And then I think, well, hold on a second. I've built 100 of this to date. I've, won multi-awards. I've done some of the best houses for people. I've got families into houses. I've designed amazing schemes. I actually want to take everything that I know and give it to someone. And I think like you as well, you have had the most phenomenal background in your previous life, in your previous career. And you've got the most amazing skill set. So actually utilizing that and saying, I can take the skill set and transfer that into my current business to support women, because I'm 6 years further ahead of someone starting out, plus all of the decades of experience that you have there. You are such an amazing person to be able to do that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I agree. I think sometimes we forget about the skills that we bring from other areas of our life, whether that's from previous work, whether paid or voluntary, whether, even parenting, there's all different experiences that we all have. And to be able to bring those in and to apply them in a new setting, I think is a brilliant thing to do. And, we're not talking about careers as we did 30 years ago, where you stayed in the same career forever. I've even had this conversation recently with my daughter who's getting ready to sit her GCSEs, and she's all of a panic. Well, I don't know what I want to do when I'm older. And then she said, but actually, you've changed careers, haven't you? And, yes, everything that you're learning, can be transferred to a different setting. And I think women are starting to realise that. And that's why we're seeing sort of an influx of new breed of interior designers who haven't just gone from university straight into a studio, that they've got so much other experience to bring. And sometimes we're not giving ourselves credit for that.
Definitely. And I think I had this conversation with Rachel on her podcast, as well as on the Instagram Live from Rachel Harding Interiors. And I'm not a naturally trained interior designer. There are so many big interior designers that have come from different backgrounds. And actually, it's breaking the barrier down of saying, well, yes, you're trained and you've got a certificate and you're doing that. But equally, I've trained in different ways. I've got different skill sets, but I'm equally just at right that I can have and hold this position. And I think there is also an undercurrent in the industry of, well, actually, if you haven't come through the right lines, can you have a successful interior design company? And I want to really break that down for women that actually, they want to have career changes. At certain points, they've maybe reached 40 or 45 or 50 or 35 or whenever, and they think, do you know what? I really want to go for it. I have a passion, I have a love, and I want to really make this successful. And I think, yeah, absolutely. You do that, because a lot of the women I coach and mentor, and I'd love to hear this from your perspective. Some women say, oh, well, I have such imposter syndrome around, should I even be doing this because I'm not trained? I haven't come from a trained background. And I'm like, well, of course you can. Let's break that down and let's build that back up. What do you hear when you're coaching women?
Very similar, to be honest. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that we're made to feel a certain way. And I think for me, it's sort of a generational thing, that actually the route that you took was to do your exams, then go to university to study that. And then you went into that career. And actually, whilst I think, the formal training is great, and that's not to take anything away from anybody that's done that.
Yeah.
I think interior design, you can be taught the things like the technical skills, you can be taught all of the technical skills around interior design. But ultimately, you've either got the eye and the vision for interiors or you haven't. And I don't believe that's something that can be taught if it's not there at all. So I think if you've got the eye, then, there's no limits to what you can achieve. But I think a lot of these interior design courses, what they don't teach is how to run a business. And they're two very, very different things. So that's great if you want to go and work for somebody and take that degree or whatever qualification you have into a studio as an employee. But if you want to own a business and to run a business, they don't teach you any of that. And I think that's where I'm finding women are coming to me and sort of saying, right, well, I've got the skills as an interior designer, but how do I market? How do I sell? How do I do accounts? How do I do social media? How do I do any of those things that allow you to run a successful business? And I think there's a really big gap there.
Yeah, I think so. And I hear the same thing. And I see so many designers that are so talented with design and that are amazing at what they do in terms of how they put mood boards, how they source, how they pull rooms together, how they pull fabric schemes. But from a business acumen point of view, they've never been potentially trained in a way to run an interior design business. Because like you say, it's complete chalk and cheese. You might love the high creative stuff, but then if I say to women, right, let's actively sit down and look at your sales forecasting. What are you forecasting for December 2025 and April 2026? How do you know you're going to get there? Are you doing quarterly sales plans? What are your figures looking like? Where's your visibility plans? They're like, I don't have any of that in place. I don't know what to do. And so, okay, right, we need to start from the beginning. Let's build the foundations of the business back up again. Really delve into, the North Star, as I call it, then the strategy. So what I would like to see come up through the industry is, and maybe we could create this together, Amy, an interior design course that's interior design and business hand in hand led, which would be phenomenal because then it could support women that really want to go into that entrepreneurial kind of avenue.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when decided on courses to do myself, I looked at all the sort of traditional courses, and I think I was still at that, well, if you get a certificate, then that's it, off you go. But actually, at the thought of going back to university, at that point, having 2 kids, I just thought, I can't put myself through that. I'd already got 2 degrees to do the previous job that I was doing. I was like, I can't do a 3rd degree. And I came across a course with the Interior Design Business School, and that very much was the best course that I could have done because it did teach me, sort of lots of things about business and how to run a studio. And then as you do it, you just learn and grow as you go along, I think. But you're absolutely right. I think so many women come into interior design because it's such a huge passion for them. But I think doing all of that without any of the stuff that you've just mentioned in terms of forecasting, in terms of, that real sort of planning and strategy, it's a hobby. If you're not doing any of that, it's a hobby. And it can sometimes feel like, oh my goodness, I'm getting paid to create these wonderful schemes for people. It's almost like a dream come true. But it's at that point that we have to go from actually, yes, I do love doing this, but also it has to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And the only way that I can achieve that, in bigger terms, is if I look at all of that strategy and forecasting. But I think you're right. I think there's so many women who are just loving doing the job, and perhaps because they haven't been in that sort of business world. And that was me for a while, don't get me wrong. I didn't work in the corporate world. So anything around finances, marketing, we didn't have to market people for probation.
Showed up.
Nobody wants to be marketed
through
for
choice
probation.
Of their own.
Yeah, exactly. So even, I've had to learn all of these things. And for a long time, I used to say, I've been so lucky, it's gone really well. And actually, it's probably only in the last couple of years I've turned that around and gone, actually, it's nothing to do with luck. I've worked really, really hard to learn all of these different parts of running a business. And that's why I'm successful, because I've really persevered. And when I haven't known the answer to something, I've gone out and sought it. And that continues, none of us know everything, no matter what stage we're at.
Being a business owner myself and wanting to always strive for the best and grow, I say to everyone that I work with, you have to cultivate a growth mindset. You don't wake up one day and be like, okay, I'm finished learning, I'm done now. You grow every single day. And if you do not have a willingness to have a growth mindset, to develop, to keep wanting to know the next best thing, how to grow, how to scale, how to do this, what books to read, who to follow, how to be coached, how to be mentored, you might as well give up. Because if you don't have willingness for that, you're not going to succeed. I want to go back there to where you say, it's not a hobby, it's a business. This is one thing I say to all my women. If you want to have a hobby, you have a hobby. You just do it for a little bit of pocket money, whatever makes you happy. But if you actually are serious and you want to run a business, then we've got to talk differently. And we need to understand, if you're plucking these figures out of thin air, I want to make 10K, what does 10K look like as a revenue coming into your business? Because you're not going to take a salary of 10K. You've got to divide that up into 20% tax, 5% profit. You've got to have 20% overheads. And then you can look at taking a salary, when you divvy all that up. But it really gets women's brains thinking of, okay, I've got to look at how I price my service model differently. I've got to look at, if I really want to be bringing, for some women even to hit their first 5K into their businesses, that can be a lot of hard work. Well, what does that take? How do you need to market yourself for that? And you're not going to take £5,000 home. You've then got a business to think about. So it really does get women's brains thinking of, okay, if I need to make this happen, I need to completely shift my mindset. And that's obviously where the subconscious and the mindset work comes in. But it really is hard sometimes when you see women that think, yeah, I've got this. And it's like, okay, we need to turn this from a hobby to a functioning, scalable business. How are we going to make that happen? And I was in a strategy day not so long ago, actually, with my coach. And on my mastermind table, we were given the fact that 97% of businesses fail in the first year to 3 years because money is just not there and they can't manage money effectively.
Yeah, it's a really interesting figure, that, isn't it? And quite a scary one. Yeah. And I think, as you say, that's where a lot of the work around that growth mindset has to come in. I think you need to work on the self-development and work on yourself in order to get there. Yeah. It's whether you're prepared to do that, isn't it?
It's the willingness to learn and to okay, I'm going to adapt, I'm going to change, I'm going to tweak, I'm going to grow. And it's taking people through that journey as well, so that they can develop themselves to be the best versions of them. Themselves, their business owners, their interior designers, to support their clients.
Yeah. And I think it's often working through fear as well, because I think fear holds so many people back, myself included. And I think it's realizing that actually that's a natural part of running a business. If you're doing something that you haven't done before, fear's there to try and protect you. But actually, you have to work through all of that. And I think perhaps a lot of people come up against obstacles and then it's that, okay, well, I'll give up. Yeah. The easiest thing is just to give up, rather than, like you say, to make that plan of, okay, how am I going to break this down? How am I going to bring this money into my business? How many projects do I need to do? Whether it's colour consultations or full service design, renovations. What do I need to do to bring that money in? That's a lot of hard work. Yeah. And so some people at that point freeze and think, oh, I don't know any of this stuff. I'm too scared. I'm going to stop there. And that's where the mentoring and the coaching really comes into its own, because we can guide those women through that and say, this is completely normal. We've all been there. Yeah. We all know how this feels. Yeah. But you can do this and you can get through this. And actually, like you say, when women do make that first 5K, it's like they've won the lottery. It's like that little bit of belief comes back to them to say, no, actually I can do that. And then you're chasing the next target and the next target. And it's just brilliant to see not just them succeed financially, but them to have that belief in themselves that they can do it.
And the confidence that grows off the back of that is really lovely.
Absolutely. I remember my first coaching call many years ago, and it was, what's your objective? And my first objective was, I want to feel like a real interior designer. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what a real interior designer felt. But in my mind, I wasn't a real interior designer, even though I was doing the job. And now, I almost used to be a bit sort of nervous to say, when I was starting out, what do you do for a living? And I said, I'm kind of an interior designer, I mean, what's that all about? I am an interior designer, stepping into that. Yeah, own it, recognize your value, and stop playing small and stop treating it like a hobby. And it's endless then what you can achieve.
Yeah, and stepping up and, really stepping into the shoes of the person that you want to become, and looking at, you want to become this figure, this businesswoman. What does that look like? So it's about really stepping into the shoes of the businesswoman that you want to become. And I think going back to the fear element, it's completely natural. If you are not feeling uncomfortable in your business, you are not growing. If you're working from a place of comfort and you're working from a place of convenience, you are not growing your company. So it's about feeling the fear, leaning into it, knowing that it's okay. And like you say, this is where our superpowers come into play, of being able to guide a woman through the process of fear and discomfort to get them out the other end to say, you've done it. Now let's feel a little bit more uncomfortable. Let's push it a little bit more. And in the 9 months that I've been mentoring women, I've taken them through all levels of discomfort. And some of them said, I really hate you today. I really do hate you. And I'm like, that is absolutely fine, because do you know what? I'm doing my job properly. If you don't like me today for something that I'm getting you through, then I am going to give myself a big pat on the back, because I'm not here to let you play small or for you to feel comfortable. We're here to make big moves.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's so, so true. It's so true. You get to a point, you think, I'm good, I know where I'm at. And then it's like, right, the next thing, oh God, I'm back to square one because I'm feeling that fear again. But, it's such a cliche, but it is amazing what's on the other side of that fear, and, how good you feel when you overcome those fears and take your business to the next level. And as you say, as a mentor and coach, you want people to be getting value from you as well. So if we're all just pottering along and everybody's happy and nobody's pushing themselves, then, almost we're not giving the right service to our mentees, because they're there to be pushed.
And we're not also giving our businesses the respect it deserves as well, which is so key. And I know I work with the most phenomenal coach in the industry, not interior design related at all. She's very business and entrepreneurial, and she pushes me on a daily basis so that the work that I do with my masterminders and her trickles down into the work that I work with the women, so that they can get the best. They can all feel the discomfort because they want to strive for the next best thing. So if I'm not showing up and doing the work myself as a business owner, then why would I believe that the women that are working with me, why should they do it? So I think you have to always also practice what you preach. And if you are leaning into fear, you show people that you are leaning into fear and you're doing this and you're doing that to help other women do it as well.
Most definitely. And I think there's that saying, isn't it, that every coach needs a coach. So actually we're not just passing down our words of wisdom and not pushing ourselves. You're absolutely right. I work with a fantastic coach at the moment who, again, in the past few months has pushed me so hard, rightly, because I'm telling her I want to do this, I want to do that, and she's really pushed me, and I've made huge strides in the past few months. But I think it's great for our mentees to see that we're also pushing ourselves, because you're absolutely right. You can't expect somebody to do something if you're not prepared to put the work in yourself.
Yeah, definitely. And talk to me about the power of support and finding your tribe, because I know in the pre-conversation before the podcast, you said it took a while to find your tribe and the women that you could lean into. Talk to me about the power of that.
Oh, the power of that is really underestimated. I mean, I have such a wonderful group of interior designers locally that I speak to on a pretty much a daily basis. We have a WhatsApp group. Everybody's so supportive. Everybody's at different stages of their careers. But everybody in that group wants to see everybody else succeed. But it's not only just within the industry. I have an amazing co-working group that I co-work with once every week from all different industries. And it's just so powerful, because if it's just you in that studio, I know you have a team, but if you are just in a studio on your own, there's nobody there to bounce ideas off, to say, I don't know how to do this in my business, or I'm a bit stuck on this. Have you done this? Has anybody got any experience of this? Yeah. And just sharing that totally elevates your business and makes you feel that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're sat in a studio all by yourself, day in, day out, it can be a very lonely experience.
Yeah.
And so I would encourage anybody, whether it's interior design or otherwise, to try and make those connections. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a huge fan of networking. I don't love it. But I think you get a feel for when you go to different networking events of who your people are and definitely who your people aren't. Yeah. And so lean into those that you easily connect with, and form those relationships, because they're invaluable. And it's one of the, my co-working morning is the morning that I would look forward to the most.
Oh, I love that. It's so important to find your tribe. I say it's so important to find the women that sit at your table.
Absolutely.
And that are there, that are your backbone, that you're ride or dies, that you can, lean upon, talk to, get support from. And it's taken me many years to build that table of a solid support group of women that I'm like, okay, I can go to that person for that. I'll chat to that person, this person, pick the phone up, something's happened, need a bit of support, advice, help, and that you all support each other.
Yeah, you all want to see each other win. And my husband shared a really good sort of quote that he'd seen the other day. It was about, is whoever's in your boat making it go faster?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. You won't be surprised to hear he's also a coach himself, but he shared it with me. And I always think back to that now, because I think actually those connections that I'm making, are they people who want me to go faster, to achieve more, to grow in the same way that I want it of them? If you've got somebody that's sort of holding you back and your business back, perhaps they don't deserve a seat at your table or a space in your boat. It's surrounding yourself with the right type of people.
And it's also when you have successes that they celebrate your successes. And when you are down and something's happened, they give you your hand and they pick you back up again. It's not the women that if you're successful, oh, well, right, okay. Or that they're a bit jealous or something, because they are not the right tribe to have around you. You need to surround yourself with the best positive energy so that you are emulating and vibrating at a constant hertz of positive. That's how I love to be. And I think I have learnt many lessons over the years, culled out many different people, because the minute jealousy comes in, the minute negative narrative comes in, you just can't have it.
I think it's so important. I think firstly to celebrate your own wins.
Yes.
Because I think as you go through your business, something that you might have once considered a win just becomes second nature. That's just what you do every week. And I do it at the end of every year, and I'm doing it at the moment of going, sort of thinking back to the year and actually what have my achievements been for this entire year? What have I learned? So I think it's important, sort of even on a weekly basis, to write down, what have your wins been this week? But like you say, to feel that you can share those with other people, and that they celebrate in the same way, that they're really happy for you, that they champion you. If you've got somebody that isn't quite so happy or, doesn't really respond, then, I guess it's time to have a look at who's in your tribe. And, people can be there temporarily, and as you build and as you grow, that tribe might change. But at whatever stage you're at, you want people that are going to support you and are going to celebrate with you, because, it's, it's hard being a solo business owner. You don't have somebody there patting you on the back, telling you, well done for this week. So, we have to be our biggest cheerleaders and then find other cheerleaders.
Yeah, I love that. So before we wrap up today's podcast, I would love you to give our amazing listeners, our interior designers out there, your top 2 tips for how to potentially go into 2025, coming from a place of being an interior designer and an amazing coach and mentor. What's it going to be?
My 2 top tips. I think firstly, you have to have a plan. I think you mentioned this earlier, and I know it sounds very boring, but there is no point going into 2025 and winging it and thinking that revenue is going to come, those projects are going to come. So I think sitting down and working on that plan, and you don't have to think of that plan for an entire year. Just think of it, that first quarter, what do I want to achieve? There will be a bigger overarching plan, but to take that into sort of bite sizes. And I guess the second thing is to face those fears, to really lean into that, to when you have those sort of thoughts that come into your head that are telling you, who are you to do this? I don't think you can do this, to actually think, okay, what's the truth here? What's the evidence? And is that just stories that you're telling yourself? Because I'm sure all the designers listening to this podcast are incredibly capable, incredibly passionate, and have huge ambitions. And so not to talk yourself out of that and to get through that fear.
Amy, that is so powerful. I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast and being part of the Advent Calendar podcast for 2024. It's been a real honour and really lovely to connect with you over the last couple of weeks as a fellow coach and mentor and a fellow interior designer as well, and to share our experiences. And thank you for sharing all your knowledge and your learnings on today's episode.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for inviting me. It's been wonderful to connect with you. You're a huge inspiration already for me. So thank you for allowing me to be part of this.
Thank you so much. What a powerful conversation. And I loved having Amy on and sharing both our experiences and stories. And it really is collaboration over competition. So powerful. Tomorrow's episode is the first of a 2-part series on the world of show homes with Diana Irving from Marblehead Homes. Join me as we go through all of our experiences, knowledges, what to do and what not to do in how 2 companies design, install and run show homes. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Design Boss Dialogue. If you love what you heard, then please share the podcast with your friends and any women that could do with a dose of empowerment just from me. I would love to hear your thoughts around today's podcast with your key takeaways and wins, because your feedback means everything to me. Also, don't forget to leave a review as well as hit that follow button so you never miss out on any inspiring conversations with me or any other trailblazing women I have on. Stay tuned for more exciting episodes, and remember, unleashing your inner design power and unlocking your true potential is only a click away. See you next time.